All right. What's up, Al? I see you there. How's everybody doing today? So today's a little bit of a different thing. On Saturdays, we usually do something to do with interview with another atheist, or it's usually centered around religion. This week, though, I'll also do a show on Wednesdays where we talk about politics and. So I've got a guest that was from the chat in that show. Joe Cool has some pushback about some of the things that I've said during that. Joe is a former Christian and Republican, and so I can imagine that we probably disagree on any number of things. But this was put up as a debate because I don't really know what else to call it, because we're obviously going to disagree and go about it that way. But at the same time, there's no structure to this. We're just going to talk. I will, though, start out and let you, Joe, introduce yourself and tell whatever you want to tell, say whatever you want to say, and then here in a minute we'll come back and find out like what it is, what things you may have had took issue with.
Sure. So my name's Joe. I former Christian, like you said, uh, and I've been on the right for a long time, even when I was a Christian, and uh, and I've stayed that way because my reasons for being a Christian and my reasons for being a Republican are very different reasons. Uh, I am married with three boys and been married for 17 and a half years now. And I met her at church, so she's still a Christian. We're dealing with that, but separate issue. Uh, I'm very much pro Second Amendment, very pro gun, uh, and I'm very happy for Joe to have me on here to talk about our differences, and we're going to see if we can find some common ground, maybe, and see where we disagree and why. And very curious to see some of the reasons people have for what they think and why on the other side.
Yeah. All right. So and I'm sure you will see responses to your stuff fly through the chat there,
Sure,
and I'll try to pick up some of those as we go.
sure. And
To
feel free to comment however you want. I got thick skin, so
right on. So yeah, and there had been a question there. It's former Christian, current Republican, not former Christian and former Republican.
correct, correct.
Right. So I'll go ahead and tell you, I would I would say I'm on the left by a good bit, um, but I would call myself an independent. Uh,
Okay,
yeah, I'm not, and not like independent party, independent of all that horse shit.
sure.
The I don't, you know, I try my best to look at things in a way of what's um, best for everybody, in my opinion, or at least what's doing the least harm to everybody.
Sure.
The I think that uh, I think that things like racism and wealth inequality and stuff like that are probably the major issues. But as it goes to the talk about Second Amendment rights and guns and stuff like that, I would say that I'm I'm very pro Second Amendment rights. Like I'm for the rights that are given to us in the Constitution.
Hmm.
Now, the interpretation of those rights is where we're going to differ. Um,
Okay.
I believe anyway, uh,
Okay.
because uh, generally, well, I won't try to straw man your position. I'll let you say what you want to say about it. But I'll say this: like, um, I don't think that making laws around firearms is stepping on anyone's rights. I don't think that the Second Amendment reads uh, you can have any gun any way you want. I don't think it says that. Uh, and I think that we need to make sure that the people that we're giving guns to are responsible to carry those guns and use them. And
I agree with your last statement. The rest of it, I will have differences on.
well, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sure. So, trying to think of the first point you made. So, there's differences in the way people read the Constitution. I know that, especially when it comes to the second.
Sure.
And I've heard a lot of different interpretations and things people say. Um, the thing with my view is that when someone says, I believe in the Second Amendment, but it doesn't fly. You can't say I agree with this, but it means you disagree with it to some point.
No, no, it means I disagree with the other interpretation of
Yeah,
it.
because it's parts of it are very clear, and some people they say take one part of the Constitution and they go, "Oh, it means this because it says this, and this is what how I interpret it." And it's like, well, when you do that, you have to go back and you have to say what were the thoughts of people back then and how they were when they worded it this way. How are they saying it and stuff like that? Because when we interpret the Second Amendment in today's language, way we in English, the way we have it now, it can be interpreted differently, especially when you get down to like lawyer type uh, ways of saying things. And people will
Well,
say, well, technically, then
if Maya posted it here, I just so everybody's clear of the wording that we're
mm-hmm.
talking about. A
Yeah,
well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
okay.
Um,
So how do you interpret this whole statement?
well, the way I interpret it is that the reason that it opens with speaking of a well-regulated militia is because it's speaking in the context of a uh, militia controlled by that city, state, area that
Mm-hmm.
is necessary to defend it from a tyrannical government or otherwise. The I think that's why it opens with that. So, with what you said of if we interpret it through today's lens and all that,
Mm-hmm.
if we did that, I would say you have no right to have any guns because we don't have well maintained militias and guns are not used for that
Yeah,
anywhere. And the ones that are that call themselves militias are certainly not sanctioned.
yeah. So that part of it has been a big contention, I feel, uh, and the way people meant it back then was, and well regulated did not mean the same thing it does today. So well regulated back then meant organized, and in a kind of a more general term. Uh, so what they meant back then was that like we need to have a militia ready in case something happens, such as a tyrannical government, so on and so forth, or a foreign invader, or what have you. And so what it means to me is that it's the militia is the people of that city. It doesn't mean that they are ready and have their own organized thing ready right now. It means that they are organized and they will be organized in case something does happen.
Well, I have to push back a little bit because
Okay.
we had the word regulation and regulations and understand what regulated mean. I don't think that the Constitution was written in what was meant to just be taken as colloquial. I think they used words for reasons. They didn't just throw
Absolutely.
whatever in there. So I would have to push back against that. I don't think that that's true.
Yeah, I mean that's how I view it, but I don't even feel that's the most important part of the Constitution that we have in there.
No, I would agree with that.
Um, And one of the biggest parts is when you bring it up and it says comma, because we're talking about the people, and that's what these things are for. It's the Constitution is meant to say that the government is not allowed to do certain things to us.
Right.
So when it comes to this, when it kind of says comma, the 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 right to bear, or well, I can't remember the exact wording, but the right to bear arms for the people shall not be infringed. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that means, and if you take that period by like that, that means that we're not even supposed to regulate and stop us from owning firearms.
Yeah. Yeah.
The government's not allowed to do it. That's basically what it says.
Obviously, with my take on the use of the word regulated that we just talked about, I'm
Yeah,
not going to agree with that because
yeah,
to say that it's necessary to be regulated and then say that it's you're not meant to regulate it is kind of contradictory.
yeah. That's where the word verbiage and meaning behind words back then is different from now.
But it didn't mean something different back then. The regulation was a well understood term. Um, it was. I mean, we had army regulations and all of that. Not for us. We didn't have an army
Sure.
exactly yet, but it was well understood with the British Army and all that. Like they had regulations, and they used that word.
Yeah, and
Um,
but in the context it meant something different, I guess is what I'm saying.
well, again, I
'Cause-
don't. I would have to say what I mean. Obviously we're just having a discussion here.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
um, but I would have to, uh, I, I don't know. I would have to have some evidence of that because to
sure.
me they used that word that way. That's not.
Yeah, and no,
Yeah.
I totally get that, and I've heard from other well, gun channels that I've had, and they've looked into stuff like this, and they know more than I do, and
Well,
they've had people look into it, and they'll say, yeah, that like, and they'll have like a historian or someone else on with them, or they will uh, quote them
well,
and say that, yeah, this is what it meant back in the day, back in that
well.
time.
Fair enough. Let me ask a question to display the problem though, because um, the people who wrote out the Constitution, the framers of the Constitution, um, or just the Second Amendment for
Mhm.
that matter, when they're laying out what you can and can't do to the American people, because these are instructions for Congress on how to make their laws, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
instructions and guidelines for the Supreme Court on how to interpret those laws.
yeah,
Um, so whenever whenever they're writing this out, if what they're intending by saying shall not be infringed is that it can't be regulated whatsoever, then why use the word regulated?
yeah,
They would be obvious. I think it's obvious that somebody would catch that. Now,
yeah. And I think that's
I don't know what was in their head at the time, and I don't think any gun tuber or any, for that matter, even some big left wing
yeah, yeah,
podcast channel or something knows what was in their head at the moment. And sure, there's interpretations, but even if somebody else does that, I'm more interested in number one, why would it be interpreted that way, and then how they got to that. Because
why they interpret it the way I was talking about.
yeah, because that word wasn't like foreign or it wasn't used that way.
Hmm.
That's just not true. Because they had things that they speak of being regulated throughout the Constitution,
Yeah,
and they mean regulated in every case.
yeah, and I feel that it's also one of those words where it can be the same word can be used in different ways.
Yeah, no,
and
I
and,
agree with you.
yeah, and I think that it's that regulated part is where we disagree on why it's interpreted certain ways, and
Well,
and I think in order to figure that out specifically and know for sure, we would have to probably talk to other experts.
sure.
Um,
My thing is just whenever for us looking at it though, um, for I would think that they meant what they wrote, not that they meant something else and they were writing in metaphors like
yeah,
I,
yeah, it
I
wasn't
don't
metaphor.
that the Bible was definitely written that way, but the Constitution not so much. I don't think so. I would while neither one of us right now can say for sure, I would still have to say it seems quite a bit more likely that they meant what they said. Um, the
Hmm.
and that this is a legal document, uh, so beyond that though we can move on past the word regulated and what they meant.
Yeah, I think it's basically agree to disagree on that part.
um at the time, if we're talking about things at the time that this was written, firearms were quite a different thing.
They were for sure.
And so if I said that to the right to keep and bear arms, that meant for functional purposes and all that. So if we're going with the context of the times, um, you would still be much more limited in your gun rights. If I said that, because just going by that, I could say, well, we had people use their hunting rifles for war at the time,
Hmm.
and sure they had some. I imagine
Yeah,
they
that's the only
gathered and
technology is
passed
basically
out.
that they had back then. So
Right, and there were I want to say there were like some black powder muskets, pistol
mhm,
style. There were I'm sure some flintlock
mhm.
uh, pistols around that time. But I mean, guns were very limited, right?
Yeah,
So whenever
no,
they say the right to keep and bear arms, if I said then, well, everybody can have this kind of pistol and one of these kinds of rifles. Um, that's given everybody the exact same right that they had then, and not infringing on anything if we're going by that context. So I
mhm.
think that also in that we do have to kind of adapt these things to what the context of the situation is
Yeah,
currently.
and I think that they generalized the Constitution a little bit on purpose because I at that time, even shortly after, they were firearm technology was growing, and they knew that it was going to be growing, right? Um,
I
so,
don't.
uh,
In 1776, I don't know that they knew they were going to be free yet. So,
yeah,
um,
no, they probably didn't. Um, but they they generalized it because they knew technology was growing and they didn't want to minimize it and restrict it to just what they had at the time because they knew that they're like, well, it's going to be growing, it wouldn't be fair, and we wouldn't stand a chance against the government if we had flintlock rifles only.
all right. Well,
So
I mean, I think obviously, I think they have to write things like this with the future in mind. It's written for
yeah.
the future lawmakers and all that anyway. And there's a number of things we stick to very closely in the Constitution, and a number of things that we
Hmm.
had to adapt, and why some amendments even exist. Um, uh, they, I think that they wanted to just give guidelines and then let the representatives make laws. Would have been but
Yeah, you can only make so laws to a degree within the right. So, and I
no,
think I believe even now we have laws in the books that that fringe on that right.
no. So for you, there's no weapon of war of any type as far as guns go that you think should be regulated or not available to anybody that wants it?
It might surprise you, but no.
Okay.
And the reason is that, and this is a big reason why I am for the Second Amendment and why people should be allowed to own guns. Right now, we have 29 states that have concealed carry reciprocity, right? And I think that should be nationwide. And the reason is that anyone who's going to do this is they're going to be a responsible gun owner. Most people are, and you'd be surprised how when you go to a gun range, you'd be surprised how friendly people are, and how willing they are to share and show off what they have, or even let you shoot at what they have. And it's very it's not we're not going to the gun range and we're Yosemite Sam, and I feel like that's how people
Yeah, yeah,
take
at the
us
gun
for.
range though,
Yeah,
right?
even
But most guns aren't at the gun range.
no, people are at people's homes,
Yeah.
and uh, we. I'm not sure I word this correctly. Um, the reason that I'm very for firearms is that they they would surprise people to say that they actually save more lives than are taken. And there used to be a study in the CDC, and they got rid of it when Joe Biden was in power. And uh, they back then, and there's numbers all over the place, but they have estimates that a defensive gun use in 1 year in the United States alone is between 500,000 to 3 million. And I've seen numbers anywhere in between that, on the low and high end. But the reason it's an estimate and that it's so broad is because that they are not uh, they don't they don't have data on this specifically. They don't have hard data, so because they don't keep track of it, because it's something they just don't do, because it's not something that they're interested in doing, and I think that a lot of
You,
people try to
you,
hide that.
you want to know something they do keep track of
Gun deaths.
for children? Yeah.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
changed that.
So
And in order to do that, they changed the definition of child.
that doesn't mean someone underage.
No, it's I think they include 18 and 19, I think, as well in that definition. I'm not
Uh,
sure, but
I think
it's
that,
still pretty high. And you got to remember that even in that, what's it, 40,000 deaths a year in the United States by firearm or gun deaths. It's You got to
um,
remember that 65% of that about is self deletion.
I don't. That's not. That I don't think that. Hold on a second. Let me look something
Yeah,
up.
it's roughly that.
So it's the leading cause of death for both children and teens. Um, and
Yeah.
the
And the thing is that when you look at that data, if you were to look at it on a graph between different ages, and when you get into the teen range, that number starts to jump up way even higher.
and
That's what puts it over the edge.
and also to your other point there, it's also the leading cause of non self deletion gun death or deaths, not gun deaths because we're talking about guns.
Yeah.
Um, it's the so it's that's that's incorrect. Um,
Which part is incorrect?
that 65% of it is people doing it to themselves, um, because it couldn't be the leading cause, and also 65% be do because it's non-suicide is how it's labeled. Um, and it's for both children, adolescents, and teens. No matter what age group, even if the teens includes 19-year-olds,
Yeah.
19-year-olds.
So I would even argue, let's even give it the best for both for your side. Okay. So let's say that 40,000 is 100% homicide.
Okay.
Okay. Let's look at the other studies where it says on the low end, 500,000 are self-defense uses. And that doesn't, when I say self-defense, that doesn't mean that a shot was fired. It could purely be the presence of a gun from someone. I mean, because most criminals are not going to want to uh, be confrontational. So if you push back with them and you say, "Hey, you better stop trying to harm me or my family, or you're going to get it," kind of thing, most of them are going to stop. And then you just call the police, and then they arrest the burglar at that point, or whatever the situation is, and then it's not reported when something like that happens. So that's also again why I say these are estimates.
Yeah.
But just because the shot wasn't fired doesn't mean that a gun wasn't used. Because just the presence of a gun is enough to stop most people. And probably most people that it doesn't stop are the ones who are extremely persistent and just don't care, or
Yeah.
they're maybe on drugs or something. And you know, drugs is a big problem with burglaries and all that too. But that's a whole other story. um,
So what this is all from the previous point though that you made that uh shit, you were saying that the defensive uses of guns and as if to say that that's somehow a good thing, first of all, but because that doesn't mean successful defensive uses of guns. That doesn't mean that just because somebody intended to use it for a defensive thing doesn't mean that it went that way.
what
First
do
of
you
all,
mean?
so um, somebody's coming to doesn't have to necessarily be shoot me, could be beat me up or anything else, and I
Sure.
decide to defend myself with a gun. Um, that doesn't necessarily qualify that it was gun violence that they
No,
were bringing to
no,
it.
no.
And also,
It's
even
not.
if it was, that doesn't mean that I didn't shoot wildly in the air and shoot three of my neighbors because I don't know what I'm doing, but I got a house full of guns.
Well, yeah,
So
and that's anyone who owns a firearm should know how to use it. It
it
doesn't mean
should.
it, yeah, and it does not mean that the government has the right to and come in and say I'm going to force you to know how to use this thing, but you should know how to use it responsibly.
Yeah, yeah. If you want to argue that people are using them responsibly and that it's not a problem, then what would be the problem with something that makes sure that they do? I don't understand that. That seems contradictory to your whole position.
Because then you're saying that I have to go through a class and pay for it, which a lot of people who are on the poorer side may not be able to afford it. And if you go through and you say, well, you can't
Where
have
they
a
can't
gun
afford
unless you take this class and pass this class, then you can't own a gun.
it, then why okay.
Do
They
you see
can't
what
afford the
I'm
class,
saying?
but they can't afford the class, but they can afford the guns.
Well, maybe they can only afford the one. They just have the one for the just in case.
I mean, I'm not opposed to those classes being free, even, but still mandatory.
Yeah.
You. So here's the thing: in any other situation with any other thing,
Mm-hmm.
um, when you are able to take control of something that is has the capability of harming and killing everyone around you if you don't use it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
In every other case, we make people through classes and get licenses and all various different things with anything.
That's
And
not true.
if we don't, if those things are for untrained people, then the Consumer Safety Board usually pulls those things off the market. So I don't I don't agree that
So, do you think so? A lot of people bring up cars and having a license for that. And if I could take a kitchen knife and go into a mall and then start stabbing a bunch of people easily.
yeah
I could kill a lot of people in a short amount of
yeah
time with that knife.
yes, but not if that kitchen knife though doesn't do that when you're intending to use it correctly. And whereas a
Correct.
car and a gun
Correct.
and lots of other things can.
If I
Even
intend to use a firearm correctly, that will not happen.
how many accidental knife deaths happen each year? Not a whole lot.
Well, yeah, well, those aren't reported either. So, I mean, I cut myself
Right.
in the kitchen with a knife.
I
No
mean,
one's gonna no one's gonna
do
know
you
that but me.
they're not reported, but do you think it's a bunch? Like
Oh, I think it's a lot.
accidental knife deaths?
Oh, knife deaths?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, just because there's an accidental gun shooting doesn't mean someone died either.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, you can say injury, but
Yeah, I mean,
um,
it could be a shooting. It was accidental, but no one died. I
not,
shot myself in the
but
foot or something.
we can. I mean, for that matter, though, we can just leave it at deaths, though, because I mean, let's go to the most extreme, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna make the equivocation of the knife and the gun, then let's go to what's going to favor it best. I mean, the uh I don't think that there's really any the statistics obviously don't support unregulated guns as being a good thing. We have lots of history of we know things that have worked in the past. Even
Mm-hmm.
we know things that would work in the future. Things like common sense gun laws aren't meant to keep people from having guns. They're meant to change things, like the number one cause of death in children being guns.
Yeah, but the problem is that gun laws don't stop bad people from doing things.
No, you're
They're
right.
they
They
don't,
stop stupid
and
people from
and
doing
that
things.
But yeah, well, not even then. But I mean, because I could have a firearm, I could go out to the range, and I could go, and I was negligent for 2 seconds, and I shot myself in the foot by accident. That
Right.
and stuff like that would still continue to happen.
No, but you're right. It would. If someone's determined to do something, they will.
Mm-hmm.
But that
And
doesn't mean we should hand everybody a gun and say, whoever's determined, go ahead and do it. Like
so think about this. Think about this. So let's say the big number one problem people are talk about are mass shootings, right?
sure,
Um, So if we allowed more and more people to just carry without, given the reciprocity, just don't have to go get a permit to do it or a license, and just let them do it. All the responsible people are going to do it who want to.
and so
And
are all the irresponsible people. That's the problem.
the problem is that the irresponsible people who are maybe criminals are just going they do it anyways. The laws don't affect them. They
No,
do it
no, no.
anyways.
There's irresponsible isn't the same
No,
as
and no,
law
you're right.
breaking.
But there's a lot more responsible people out there than people I think are out there, because there are sure there's a few idiots out there and they make us look bad, but those are the only ones you hear about.
So are you familiar with bell-shaped curves? So the bell-shaped curve, which is I would say that it's even the nudged skewed a little bit, but the bell-shaped curve gives you an average, right? So we know that you're going to have a small number of people that are outliers, and then for the most part, everybody's going to fall within this bell-shaped curve, with 50% of the people um,
Mm-hmm.
being of somewhat intelligence and 50% of them being below that number. And
Mhm.
they kind of use that to then say, well, uh, this when they do percentiles and stuff, right?
Sure.
So George Carlin, and I've brought this up before. George Carlin tells the joke that when you say the average man, the average guy is a dumbass, and so remember, half the people are stupider than that because that guy's average. So
Yeah.
so I don't agree that most people are responsible on
Yeah.
their own.
And I think it's anyone's responsibility who has a firearm to go get the training they need from somebody who knows what they're doing.
Well, if it's their responsibility, then let's make it their responsibility.
Yeah, and it is. And if someone's negligent with a firearm and something bad happens, that's on them, and they're going to be punished for it. It's the same thing as if you got drunk behind the wheel of a car. That's
Right.
negligent.
But if it falls under the definition of responsible gun ownership to go do those things, then let's just go ahead and make responsible gun owners. And if what you said about those numbers and stuff is right, they would be unaffected by that. But but we know from future endeavors that that's not the case, right?
Uh, yeah, but I don't think it can be forced. It's not constitutional.
So well, no, we had like the
And I think even giving someone a class and showing them how to be responsible doesn't make them responsible.
so if I put a ban on assault weapons, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
we have data from that, right? Because we did an assault weapons ban before, and we've seen what effect it had on gun deaths in the United States.
It
These
didn't
numbers,
change it much at all. It was
yes,
negligible.
yes, it did, yes, it did.
It was negligible.
And
There are
I'll
people.
give you,
There are people out there who say it was negligible.
yeah, well, they're wrong. I wouldn't call 25% negligible. When you're talking about the what is now the number one cause of death in children, if we can simply change that by something that we've already done before,
Mm-hmm.
that was just fine. Nobody was freaking out then about it. There's I'm sure people who didn't like it or whatever, but nobody took everybody's guns. Nobody's right to have guns was infringed. You could still have guns, just not these particular guns. So
It's
so
still an infringement, though.
it
You're
doesn't
saying
say it doesn't say you have the right to have any weapon that you wish. It does not say that. So, in order for it to infringe upon something, it would have to be something that's already given to you, and it doesn't give you that. Even if we take out the militia part, you
so.
still have. If you have a right to own a gun, period. Am I preventing you from? Am I infringing on that right to own that gun? Like,
Yes,
no, you
you're
can
infringing
still
my
own
right
a
to
gun.
have the gun that's available. So you're
No, it
saying that
doesn't say that. But
you're saying that I can have this gun, but you can't have this gun. And the problem where it comes in is that where does that stop? Because I guarantee you that they don't say it out loud, but people are the I would say the Democrats and the Democrat Party in general, certain specific people. I can't say everyone. They are their goal is to just get rid of them all. They would if they
no
could.
Democrat has said that.
Yes, actually, they have. Nancy Pelosi said that years ago.
Okay,
Yeah, she
one
said that.
Democrat said
I
it.
know. Yeah, but she said yeah. But I mean, they won't say it, and they won't even tell you that if you ask them straight point blank because they can't.
The
But I
Democratic
would. But
the
you have to look.
Democratic. Sorry, go ahead.
I would say it's they won't say it, but you have to look at what you've heard probably the saying of don't look what people say, look at their actions.
Yeah.
But uh, all the gun laws that they try to implement, a lot of them are basically backdoor confiscation. If you look at them, or specific ones.
No, they're
'Cause-
not. The fact that some guns become illegal doesn't mean that they're trying to confiscate all of anyone's guns.
So
It means,
if I have something that's legal now, and then they make it illegal, what do I do with that?
well, uh, depends on how the law reads, because some of these things have
Yeah,
things
and
about
some of them are very
retroactive.
generalized and then open to interpretation.
Well, no, they mention whether the law is retroactive or not. And as a responsible gun owner, like you said, most people are. If a
Mhm.
law was made that did limit, say, you couldn't have this thing that you have retroactively, then as a responsible gun owner, you would get rid of it, right?
But where does that stop? And I would say, and then if you look at that and you say, well, I have to get rid of this now, then you're going, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would I have to get rid of that? And
No,
a
but
lot, because a lot
well,
of
you
these
know,
things are very like cosmetic. So like, oh, I can't have a front hand grip on my rifle. Well, that why? That makes no
hey,
sense.
disagreeing about the specifics of it, is one thing, and that's fine. Of what that specific law is, that's something totally different, right? Because they do give reasons for all those things, bump stocks and all that crap, right? They give reasons of why they're doing it. Now, whether you agree with those or not, that's policy difference.
Yeah,
This is a little more fundamental than that, I believe. And I would agree with you on some of those things, that it may not be effective in doing what they say it will do, and that's
yeah,
politics for you.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And I really hate that politics is involved in all of this. It's
but
really sad. But it,
but to sit and say that because they make some law regulating this thing that's killing so many people, that this country has a problem with that other countries don't, to sit and say that to regulate that thing at all, is they're going to take them all away. Nobody's proposed doing that. That hasn't been seriously put forward, by anyone. Well, Trump recently did, talked about getting rid of the guns, and
I've heard that,
now wants a national registry of all gun owners.
which is
Um,
illegal.
well, I mean,
I
I'm
mean,
just saying that's he's on your side.
no, and no, and when it comes to politics with Trump specifically, you will find that a lot of people, whether they voted with even people who voted for him, a lot of them are sitting back going, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's and even if you ask those people, would you have voted differently now if what you know now and back then? And I guarantee you a lot of them would say no because they did not want the other party in. They would have rather had him.
But
Even
if why didn't so that we get into the conversation about lobbyists and stuff then, right? And that
yeah,
doesn't go so well for you either.
but yeah, I'm not gonna go into a lot of that.
These
But
guys aren't making well. Here's I'll make this one point about it then. These guys aren't making laws for responsible gun owners. They're making laws for lobbyists and for the gun industries, and they're paid very very nicely to do it. So
yeah, but the yeah, because the gun laws only affect responsible gun owners.
what? I think the gun laws affect everybody. Are you saying they only affect responsible gun owners?
Yes,
People who people who are irresponsible gun owners can still make every attempt to follow the laws, and I think a lot of them do. It's that they it's that they're not trained and educated is what makes them irresponsible, I would say, most of the time. I'm sure there's a certain number of people that are bad people, and that are in willfully ignorant. I've encountered quite a bit of that in
oh
my
maybe, but
history. Um, so I'm not saying that those people that are both irresponsible and looking to break the law and negligent and all those other things, those all are in that group too. But not all irresponsible people are intentionally irresponsible. They
no,
just don't know what they don't know.
yeah, and those people are the ones that need to do. They need to have training, but
Well, let's
and
make it a law.
but it's not something that can be given that should be forced on them.
If
They
they
need
need it as you say.
I mean, but so
Then let's let them have it.
I don't agree with it
Yeah,
because
right.
it's extra steps that. So right now in Oregon, we're having that 114 law coming through, and I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. But they're basically they're going to be making people here shortly have a permit to purchase any firearm at all.
Oh, okay. Like a new
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, it's a new
I
thing.
was going to
Yeah,
say, how do you have a permit for a gun you don't own? But
yeah,
I get
yeah,
what you're
yeah.
saying.
It's a permit to purchase. And they're making you take a class, and they're making you do this and that, and it's it's unsure how much it's going to cost somebody just to go through all that.
I mean, I could make the argument that our tax dollars pay for the road, so why should I have to have a permit or a license to drive on the roads? Like, I mean, you can get into that about anything, but you're making the very point yourself that there are people that need this, and unless it's required of them, they're not going to do it.
Not
Which is what causes the problems for the responsible gun owners, which causes the why responsible gun owners are paranoid about Democrats taking their guns is because of what the irresponsible people do. So it would benefit everyone across the board to do that, except for the irresponsible people and the willfully bad people.
but I think that also goes back to a point I made earlier is that just because you take a class and you show yourself that you can be responsible doesn't mean you will continue to be.
No, there's still going to
Yeah,
be people that screw up, but the point is that it it's gonna make sure that at least one avenue is out of the way, right? So it's not going to be the excuse of he was untrained, he didn't know what he was doing. Oh well, that's not going to be an excuse for any of this then,
well, we
because
don't say oh well, but
thoughts and prayers, right?
well, no.
I mean, the the idea that wouldn't drastically improve uh, responsible gun ownership is absurd because it would. I mean, obviously, if you take those people and require that they be educated and trained, they're going to be more responsible. That's
So here's something I just thought of. Why don't we require people and kids in high school to take a class?
we require
Everybody.
that they take a bunch of them.
Yeah. And why don't we make responsible handling and gun ownership and education part of that?
I mean,
So here's the thing. So I have kids, right?
yeah,
I,
son of a bitch.
as a responsible gun owner myself, I am going to, I'm teaching when they're become a certain age, and as I feel they're capable of understanding what I'm talking about, they are going to be learning about firearms. They're going to have a chance to use one. They're going to be learning. They're going to know all the rules and all of that. I think everyone should do that because the one thing that it does, and people don't realize, is that because I have some, and if my kids just knew I had them and I didn't teach them anything about them, they're going to be curious.
Yeah.
And if I let them use them responsibly under supervision or handle them, that takes the curiosity out. So
Well,
they're a lot less likely to come in and go, I want to try and break into my dad's safe and see if I can get one and handle it because I think it's cool. But and that's the mindset of a child or a
I
teenager.
I have to say though, for me anyway, and I can't without digging into numbers. I grew up in a household with a lot of guns,
Yeah.
and I went hunting and used guns and had hunter education and all that stuff. Um, I still liked to go out when nobody was home and shoot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, which I wasn't supposed to be doing. Uh, so At
Yeah,
least for me, I can say it didn't. And I'm not saying you should apply that to everyone. That may not be the case with everyone. But at least for
yeah,
me, I can say that didn't make a difference at all.
yeah, and I think it should still be at the discretion of the gun owner whether or not they should have them locked up and to what degree. But I still think that anyone who has
They
kids,
should on their own accord, though.
they should
Not
be, yeah, yeah, they
gun
should,
locks shouldn't be a thing that are
it
required.
can't be forced on them.
Yeah,
It creates elite, people who are becoming criminals just because they didn't properly store their firearm. Because when they get into the storage laws, they get pretty specific, and it's like if you don't have it specifically this way, then you're breaking the law, and it can't be enforced anyways unless there's an incident. um, but uh, I don't think it should be forced on someone. I think someone who has kids should have them locked up. That's my own opinion. And I think it you also have to take into consideration any neighbors or friends you have over, whether or not they have kids, stuff like that. And it's at the discretion of the owner.
yeah. So let me tell you something here that I'm sure you understand, but like I'm from Kentucky. It's in the title. The We have lots of guns here. I'm not against people owning guns. I'm not. I'm not. I would be completely against going and taking everyone's guns
Yeah.
or any of those things. I'm not for doing those things, but I do see. I'm also aware of the amount of violence and what it's doing
Mm-hmm.
by allowing um, these guns on the streets like this.
Yeah.
And I have I have a very I have a past that had me in close relationship with guns and know of people in that um, I don't know how to explain that in that group that was like me that guns are a thing too. So
Yeah.
I've got experience with guns from a lot of different angles. So I'm not, but at the same time, those numbers where you have um, the children and the gun violence in the United States, the guns on the streets, the amount of guns, um, all of those things. As I don't see it as you're taking away everyone's rights because you don't want the number one death of cause of death in children to be gun violence.
No, and that's the thing that's always bothering me about that statistic. And I think they changed the definition for a child in order to make that number one. And I think that they did that specifically in order to tug on people's heartstrings.
Well, I looked at a whole list of different gun um, groups and how they define that as far as those numbers, and some of them don't include 18 and 19-year olds
Mm-hmm.
because 18 and 19-year olds would make it the number one cause of death of
Mm-hmm.
everybody in the
Yeah.
United States. Um, uh, so there was a couple that did include it, but overall they don't do that. That's just not true. And um, let me tell you something too. That listen, I know that there are some gun tubers out there and stuff. I watch Kentucky Ballistics quite often.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, I do
Scott,
too.
Scott has a great channel. I used to watch. I don't like Brandon Herrera in any way.
Yeah.
But
So
I used to
Brandon,
watch Matt Demo Ranch.
he's no longer on, but
Right,
yeah,
he quit
Matt,
making content.
he didn't do anything political though.
Right.
Um,
What I'm
there's a
saying is though is that I watch some of these people too. I'm
Mhm.
not against
Sure.
people knowing about guns and liking guns and having guns. I'm against the unregulated way that it's done because
Mhm.
it's causing problems,
Yeah,
and
but
it is the problem.
yeah, I mean, the problem is that most of the gun shootings we have are intentional. I
Okay,
would say
yeah,
so.
yeah.
So I mean, and taking away that intentionality and making a law against it isn't going to change that intentionality.
Well, right, murder is illegal already.
Yeah, murder's already illegal. I mean, it's not stopping people from murdering anybody.
Assault's illegal. Even brandishing a firearm's illegal.
Yeah.
But
Um, I would say real quick when it comes to the YouTube channels, if people want some good, on the right, actual information on their take on things, there's another channel called forget his channel name, but his name is. Have you heard of Braden?
mm,
Let me look it up real quick. His Langley Outdoors Academy. He does a lot of political stuff around guns, stuff like that. And there's another one. His name is Kolyan Nior. He does a lot. He does some also some statistics and stuff like that on his channel.
yeah.
Not all of it is that on their channel, but they do other stuff as well. But they do a lot of statistics. They have some stuff that you can watch that are talking about a lot of these statistics and why they think the way they think. If anyone's ever interested in looking at that, but
Well, and I don't have a problem with the way that they think about it, but let's leave it at that. Like this is their interpretation of a thing that they have no
sure,
that they don't have a better reason to make that interpretation. It's fine that they interpret it that way. What it comes down to is like we discussed earlier, though. The Second Amendment is the written instruction for Congress on how to do those things and how
it's
to
not
write laws.
it's not how to do things. It's strictly written to tell the government what they cannot do to the
Right.
people.
When making those laws
Yeah,
for that purpose,
yeah,
right?
and
So it guarantees you a right, but that right is being guaranteed by by the government, and
yeah,
it's so whenever we get into like their different ideas and things, there's there are people that are elected and things, and then and a number of people are Republican voters based on this one issue, which
yeah,
is 100% a complete misunderstanding of how the Democratic Party sees the Second Amendment as a whole. There might be some individuals that have some extreme views or whatever, but there's and they say this over and over and over. We don't want to take people's guns away. We want to
yeah,
make them more safe to have.
yeah. And again,
Um,
it's what they say versus what they do. But
well, we can do that with,
yeah,
but what do they do? Have they made any action to take away everyone's guns? They
no,
haven't.
though they can't because that would cause civil war, even if they tried. I think they know that, and I think that's why they pick at this and then that and that and this, and then it become a slippery slope in my opinion, and it's
But to say that you can't do anything because you might do everything is is absurd.
yeah,
Like to say you can't make any laws controlling this thing that didn't exist at the time that they wrote it. First of all, like in its current form, you can't write any laws about these things because this said that, and we're going to use context of when it was written with the word regulated and stuff like that when that's convenient, but not
yeah,
whenever it comes to the definition of a gun and what they meant by a militia
sure,
and all those things. And it's like so for me when I see this kind of argument, I can't help but say that it's it's a cherry picking expedition here. Like in one moment it's all about the context at the time, and then it's not. and it's just whatever's convenient to make the argument to say you can't do anything to this period because this thing says it. Uh,
I see what you're saying, but that's not how I view it. But let me give you a little thought thing that I don't think this would ever happen. But let's say, and I think this is the way things should go, and I would bet you that this would reduce crime a lot. What we need to do is we need to unrestrict everybody, get rid of most of these laws. Still, I mean, I still think we can keep the background checks. That's fine. I still think that prevents some things from happening to certain people who shouldn't have them, and some people are going to get them anyways. But let's let people carry concealed without a permit because that costs extra money, and let's let them all carry, and I guarantee that a lot more people would carry, and the people who intend to do harm are going to be stopped a lot quicker, and that will reduce deaths in itself. And people will be allowed to carry and protect themselves, their family, if they're attacked
we
individually.
already know that's not true.
What do you mean?
So this idea that having if you allow everybody to have guns, then you're bound to have a number of good people that stop the bad people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just not true. What you end up having is you have people who aren't trained to use guns who end up firing wild shots off and causing a lot more danger than solving any problems. Putting more guns into the equation isn't a way to solve that. That is the most unintuitive thing
Uh,
that the right wing argues.
I disagree with that because anyone who's gonna conceal carry already knows how to use it. People who, if just
No,
because
no,
they
no, no,
own,
no. You said to let them do it unregulated, though.
yes,
The reason that people who conceal carry know how to do it is because in most places, not here, but in most places, you do have to be educated on that. You have to pass a class. So that's why that statistic exists.
yeah, but I don't think it should be regulated though. I'm
Well,
looking
then
at
you
just
wouldn't have
the
most
crime
people
and I'm
that,
looking
that
at crime in general.
you don't get to have your cake and eat it too, though. You don't get to because you're saying, well, because because these people do conceal carry under the current law that's there. If you do away with the law, it would be the same, and it wouldn't. There's no reason to suggest that it would be, because that's why that law's there, so that the people who are concealed carrying are doing it responsibly, and we know they are because they have a certification to do such a thing.
In
It,
Oregon, in Oregon, all it requires is a background check. There's no class involved.
Same thing in Kentucky. You can carry however you want in Kentucky,
Yeah,
as long as you're legal to own a gun.
yeah.
Uh,
I think that's
but
the way
but
it should be.
well, I mean, the numbers kind of disagree on that, but
Which
you
numbers
know,
disagree with that?
the amount of accidental discharges, the amount of accidental gun deaths, the dangerous situations that are escalated because of the presence of a gun, um, by an unqualified person. We have example after example of what happens whenever you give guns to people willy nilly. Like it's we've already done that.
Yeah,
That
and you'd have to look at it case by case for all of those, but and
no.
how they classify some of that stuff is different.
Okay,
I get. Do you see what I'm saying?
so I do understand what you're saying, and this is the thing that if if the numbers were like real close, right? Like if there was of accidental gun deaths, and I don't know that it's not, but I'll bet money on it. um, if the number of accidental discharges or accidental gun deaths or whatever statistic you want to go with there, if you were seeing numbers that were like, well, it's really just right down the
Yeah.
middle, or it's very rare that
Yeah.
it's some unqualified person that does this.
Yes.
That would be one thing, but it's that's not the
So
case.
you know how to handle a firearm. You've shot them.
Yeah,
So you understand that in order for it to be an accidental discharge, we call it a negligent
negligent
discharge.
discharge.
Yes. So you understand that that has to be somebody doing something they shouldn't be.
Right.
The gun doesn't go off by itself.
Yeah, yeah, because responsible, even if we put common sense gun laws and responsible gun ownership in, it's not going to solve every single instance. That
Yeah.
and nobody's proposing that it would.
But I mean, I would argue that a lot of the common sense gun laws that are proposed that they call common sense are not common sense.
Well, that's fine. The it would be fine to sit down and discuss
Sure.
the efficacy of each one of those,
Yeah.
but the problem is you can't even have the conversation whenever you start with you're not allowed to make any laws about my favorite toy.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's reasons for that, and it's I explained it
No, there's
because
not.
and it
Not good ones
no,
anyway. There's
yeah,
reasons.
yeah, there's reasons, and my reasons is that self defense gun use is way higher than actual intended deaths and or
Maybe.
homicides. It's way higher. So if you were to take away, let's say we take away people's guns, and I guarantee you, crime would go way up. You take away the responsible gun owners' guns, and then the people who are not allowed to have guns already, who are already criminals, they're going to keep their guns. You might
Is
get some. You
self
might get some of them away from them a little bit, but the crime's still going to go way up because
is
they're just
self
going to use something else.
the self defense numbers, do those exclude intentional use though? Because self defense is intentional.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
It was basically an incident where someone felt threatened, or someone they were helping someone else who was being threatened. You know, some
it's before I jump at you here. Is it your argument that most public gun uses, are in self defense?
yeah. I mean, some of them are probably going to be in the home as well. But there's people who carry. The only ones who are going to be in public are the ones who are carry outside of the home. Because I mean, it's hard to if I don't have my gun on me because I can't carry in specific places or something, and I go, oh, someone's doing a mass shooting. I don't have my gun on me. I can't go back. Go, hold on, pause. I need to go get my gun so I can use it. So that's why if we had more people who carried, there's a greater likelihood that it could be stopped before too much damage is done.
Well, your number can't be right. First of all,
Which number?
the overwhelming majority of firearm users, 92%, indicated that they have never used their weapons to defend themselves. Less than 1% say they did in the previous year. So that means that for that can't be true, and it also be true that the number of public gun uses that we've seen happened, even the number of school shootings eliminates that as a possibility. So, um, uh, so that's
I don't
not
know what
right.
I don't know what that statistic said, or what the
That's
or
from
what the even the
that's
uh,
from Rutgers.edu.
or what
That's
the
that's
what
a
the group control group was, or any of that.
no,
Um,
no. It's
but we
they.
have the
It's a
fact is that
statistic on
yeah,
that they gathered on gun owning.
yeah, I don't know how big the group was for people they interviewed, but
I don't either, but it's like I said, it's from Rutgers. It's not. I don't imagine it's a
sure.
small study.
And the
Um,
problem we have with these numbers is that they are all over the place, all over the place, and and people are using their, obviously on both sides. People are
So, but
people are cherry picking different statistics and saying, look at this number, look at that number, and then they ignore other numbers.
but for you, that's a red herring because it doesn't matter what the numbers are. Even if I showed you the methodology of these numbers and it was upheld, you still wouldn't agree that the legislation is something that should happen. Right? I mean, and I understand that it doesn't matter what the numbers are necessarily. I'm making the argument that these numbers exist. If you're saying
Sure.
like these vary all over, it doesn't matter which direction they go though, because you've already stated that you you think that it's an absolute right.
I do think it's an absolute right. Obviously, don't think it's a God given right anymore, but I still think it's a right that should be in place. I think, and I do think that if we were less restricted, that crime would go down. And I would bet you money that would happen, but I don't think it would ever happen
In the
because of the
places
way.
where we have the most guns, we have the most crime though
Not necessarily.
with
I mean,
guns.
where's the most crime?
Well, I mean,
California has a lot of gun crime. They have very
yeah,
high restrictions on guns.
yeah. But they also have a huge amount of guns um, in California.
Yeah,
It's
and
even though they have restrictive laws, there's still a fuck ton of guns there.
sure.
Um,
And I wanted to bring up something. We had the child statistic, right? Of and if we look at that child statistic, and that when you get to the teens, the numbers start going way up higher.
yes, yes. If
Yes,
that's
and
what I
what
was
and
saying,
why? I was going to ask you, why do you think that is?
most of these groups don't include 18 and 19-year-olds
Sure, but
because
I'm just
if they did, gun violence would be the number one cause of death of all Americans,
sure.
not just children.
But let's look at even the teens. Okay,
Sure.
13 to 16 or 17, whatever. Why
Yeah.
are the numbers way higher for those age groups? Do you think?
I mean, I guess there could be a number of reasons. I could also argue that um, the numbers for kids that have been taught how to use guns is way higher for that age group, and make the same correlation that you're getting ready to make.
Sure.
Only the other direction.
Necessarily, not necessarily. Um, I would tell you that a lot of the gun violence happens in inner cities, right? That's where the higher populations are. And in inner cities, we have gangs, and there's a lot of teenagers who are in gangs. And I would argue that a lot of that comes from gang violence.
Okay.
So
How so we should do something to keep guns out of the hands of gangs,
yeah,
right?
but the problem is that I don't think they do enough to do that either. And I think if we actually enforced the rules that are in the books now, we did more enforcement of that, we could even reduce crime that way
How do
and
you
gun violence.
propose how do you so in one hand everybody should have a gun and that would get rid of a lot of crime. But on
I
the
think
other hand, we shouldn't allow people in inner cities to have guns. What are you
no, no, no. I'm not saying that. I think that people who are already illegally not allowed to own guns should be more enforced. So a teenager already can't own a gun, but we already have a bunch of gang violent teenagers that have guns.
not
And
all
so,
not all gang members
no,
are.
oh, I didn't say that. I'm just saying that that's where I think a lot of the higher numbers come from.
Well, again, it's 18 and 19-year-olds is where most of them come from, which is why they excluded them
Yeah,
to,
but
to
I mean,
favor to
but
favor
there's
your position.
yeah, but there's gangs of and age groups of that as well.
There are. I'm not saying that they don't exist. I'm saying that because 18 and 19-year-olds was the biggest in teens, and that's why they excluded them so that it would favor you and your position more. Because if we include 18 and 19-year-olds, again, that's teens as we would describe it
Mm-hmm.
legally anyway. Maybe not 19-year-olds. I mean, it's still a teen.
It's still
So
technically a teen, yeah.
by the use of the word, I would imagine 19-year-olds would be included, but they don't because it would make it the number one cause of death of everybody. So if we go, um, people live much older than 36, which would be double 18, right?
Yeah.
So up to 18 years old, if we just stop there and don't count any of the gun deaths for anybody else who live more than double that age, it would still be the number one cause of death of people in the United States. So I don't think that does anything for you. I think that hurts your case.
Well, if you, I haven't actually looked at the study of myself, but if
Sure.
you, I've heard of it. So,
And I'm not going to hold you to
sure, sure. And,
no.
but I want to say that there are more deaths in the US by hammers, hands and feet, knives, other stuff, than any rifle or handgun.
No. If you took just up to 19 years old, it would be the
Well,
number
I'm
one
not,
cause of death, including anything else that you can come up with,
well, I'm not
whether it's
talking about
kidney.
just kids in that. So I'm
No,
talking
no.
about,
If you include everybody, it still is because of up to age 19. Now, if you take just the group above that and you want to talk about that, that's different. But if you include everyone, it's still the number one cause of death.
yeah, and I don't know what all the characteristics are that they have around that and what they exclude or include, what they're
Ways people
comparing it to.
died. I mean,
Yeah, I know. And there are, if you take even just rifles, because people blame, they want to get rid of assault weapons, right? Because they think
right.
that's going to help crime. And
It did help crime previously when they did it.
most, and if you look at the actual what was used in a gun death, or it was handguns.
Yeah,
Most of them are handguns.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what is going to be taking a rifle away going to do?
Well, we know what it'll do, right? Because we had the assault weapon bans in the 90s, and we know what it'll do. And it dropped gun violence dramatically. And as soon as they ended it, it went right back to where it was.
What happened to violence in general?
What happened to what?
Violence and homicides in general.
Oh, in the
Yeah,
90s, it was way up.
yeah. I mean, so if you, and I've seen this happen before, where people classify in their statistics something specific. So they can say, well, the rifle deaths went down specifically because we got rid of assault weapons.
Obviously, the rifle
And
deaths are going to go
well,
down.
yeah, and obviously it doesn't mean it had an impact on crime altogether. Do you see the difference I'm
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to
but
say?
it did have. Okay, so whenever they did that, um, it did have an impact on crime altogether because it was some percentage points of crime that started to go down around
Mhm.
that time. As we went into the 2000s, crime started to go down, and over the first 20 years of the 2000s, crime in general continued to go down, even when gun deaths went back up after they let the assault weapons ban thing die in Congress. The 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 gun deaths went back up, but violence continued to go down.
Yeah, but I don't remember who it was, but I've heard people say that it didn't do enough to make a difference.
No,
I've heard
no,
that said
I
before.
agree. It didn't do enough. It needs to
Yeah,
be. It needs to be some. It needs to be refined and fixed. I don't necessarily agree with every move that is made in gun legislation. I think some things could be done better. Some things are unnecessary. Some things have to do with money more than anything. Like there's uh, there's a lot of nuance to the conversation about why a particular thing is done and whether it has the effect that they want it to have. There's obviously a conversation to be had about that, but just based on the numbers, that gun deaths in general went down, gun violence went down, because while not everybody who commits an act of gun violence uses a rifle, uh, the AR-15 has been a very popular pick of people who do commit gun violence and of mass shooters specifically.
AR-15s specifically, or rifles in general, are, I think I've heard, are like 1% or less of gun violence. There's not a lot of rifle usage, especially specific to that platform.
The only look, so the only reason I'm looking this up is because if you're going to lay it out as a number like that, I'm going to look it up.
Sure.
If you're going to say it's a fact and I don't know it to be one,
No, yeah, and I mean, it's the one thing I do wish is that we had hard facts for everything, but I
yeah,
don't know. I don't think we can get that. And I've seen statistics where they, even in general statistics, where they say, well, there's this, and we excluded this because it's technically not that to make it our side look good, and so on and so forth.
um, yeah.
But even if it's not 1%, I don't know what it is today. I've heard that
Well,
in the past.
I'm not seeing
But
1%. I'm seeing a small fraction. But here's
yeah.
here. Let me give you the because this is oh okay. So handguns, rifles are only used in 3%
Mhm.
of firearm murders
Yeah.
altogether.
And
Uh,
I would say that the AR-15 is even less, is within that category, and is less than that.
yeah, yeah.
So and that's also why I'm
That's
so very confused about why they're concentrating on the big scary black rifle. And that's how I view it.
oh,
They view it. So it's like, well, what?
in, that number's going up though. That number's been trending up a percentage point every few years. But also, right. So while rare in overall gun crime, the use of an AR-15 style rifles has become more common in mass shootings in recent years. Some data indicates that assault weapons were used a higher percentage of mass shootings for 2020 to 2023. So
And that makes sense because there's more of them out there now. But
yeah,
it's still rifles are not common at
well,
all.
well, no, because it's still a percentage of the gun violence. There's
Sure.
more of all different all guns out there now, but
Yeah.
the all, and I'm not specifically picking on the AR-15. I'm just talking about assault weapons,
Hmm.
which isn't just limited to the AR-15 either. Um, so
But
these
I
we know though we know what effect that having laws makes. Now, I'm not saying they should go and just ban AR-15s. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm just saying that we do know that regulating some of these guns that are weapons of war does help. And then that in combination with something like common sense gun laws that makes sure that we don't put guns in the hands of people who shouldn't have them. Uh, you know, those things together though is the bigger picture. It's not an argument about just AR-15s. It's that's one part of something that needs to be done to change these statistics.
Yeah, and I see where you're coming from. I really do.
Yeah,
But I I think the one thing that the both sides have to agree on is that something has to be done. The disagreement comes of what should be done.
yeah.
And people want to say, hey, we should harden schools,
Well,
put security in there, but they don't want to do it. And
well,
that's
well, lots of school shootings have taken. Some of the worst took place in schools that had armed guards in them. So
so
that's
there
not a
was
catch all either.
no, it's no, not necessarily, but it would definitely reduce drastically. And
I mean, it hasn't prevented any that we know of.
actually it has. There's one I do know of. I think it was in Salem, Oregon, where they caught a guy who went to do a mass shooting at a school, and he skipped. He was going to do his first choice of a school was going to be this one school, but he decided to skip it because it had armed security.
Yeah.
And so he
Well,
went to a different school where there was no security and did his shooting there. And I mean, it's a deterrent in itself. I mean, it's not going to stop everybody from trying, but I think if we had it a lot more everywhere, that it would definitely stop a lot more of that. I think that's a very uh, immediate response that we can have that's effective.
23% of the time, the schools had guards, armed guards.
Yeah, that's not very high.
23%? If we could get rid of 23% of school shootings, that would change those statistics. So that to say that because your position is we should do nothing other than
No,
give people
no,
more guns.
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that what you're thinking I'm saying I'm doing nothing, but it's not true. Because what I'm trying to say is that if we let people protect themselves with firearms more often instead of restricting them from doing so, we can reduce crime
But
altogether.
there's no data that supports that though.
There isn't because it's never been done.
Well, right, but we do know that the availability of guns increases acts of gun violence, not decreases them.
That's not
It,
necessarily true.
that is true.
Well,
That's
no, it's so you have to. It comes down to what's it called?
correlation and causation.
Correlation doesn't equal causation, and people like to do that with some of this, and it doesn't necessarily mean that's the cause.
Well, but
Because I mean, for example, let me look. So we own
where guns aren't available, they're not being used though.
as much, but there still are.
Well,
So
then it was available if it
well,
was
that's
used.
because there's not as many. So my point is that there are more guns in 2025 than there were 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at the acts of violence and shootings, it's all over the place. It's not necessarily higher now than it was then. So we have more guns, but yet violence isn't as high as it was in other times.
Violent crime in general though has been trending down. Uh,
Yeah. And we have more guns now than ever, though.
don't let any other Republicans hear you say that, because they like to say that it's not.
No,
But
that's
so
it's just my only point is that it's one of those things where we have more guns, yet violence isn't as high
but the number of deaths has been going up,
because
right?
there's more people in
Right.
the U.S. now.
So
It's population.
well, yeah, but at the same time, it's not. Violent crime is trending down, but we're seeing more mass shootings and more school shootings and more young people dying from guns than ever before. And it's not just proportional to raises in population. It's exploding
Yeah.
big time.
And I'm saying that if we harden schools, let more people carry, we can reduce that drastically because it can be stopped as soon as it starts. So
Okay, well,
for example, we can have someone comes into a school. This is hypothetical, and we can say, oh, they had 100 rounds of ammunition with them, whatever, and they came in, started shooting up the place. Maybe one or two people end up getting shot and or killed, and then someone realized what was happening. They stop it. They shoot them. It's 2 people versus 30 that could have died.
I mean, they had the whole police department outside of Uvalde.
Yeah, and that was on them. They should have gone in a lot sooner.
Right, guns didn't change that, did it?
No, because they weren't used properly.
They had way more guns.
Yeah, but they were
Okay.
they were scared to go in because
So,
they were.
so
because they didn't know
Yeah,
what was going on. They were told something that wasn't real. Like, oh yeah, but the shooter stopped, but they heard shots still going, and then it was this big thing that it was the fault of the police department.
right. Well, I mean, also, I wouldn't try to use one example
No,
to say
no,
it's
and
everything.
that
I
was
was
just
just
that.
saying like that's just not the fact that 23% of the school shootings took places in schools that had guards doesn't mean that because some of the worst ones had guards. It's not it isn't it doesn't follow necessarily that just because there's guns there that it makes things better, because that's not usually the case
It
that we
can though,
see.
if you done properly with if someone has the mindset that they're gonna carry
I
or
mean, if a
have.
frog had wings, he wouldn't bump his ass. There's no data that suggests that even suggests like preliminarily that injecting more guns into it is going to do anything other than make the problem worse.
I don't see no because it's if you shoot the guy who's shooting up a school or anything else, you're gonna stop him, and it doesn't mean
No,
that it didn't stop it from happening altogether, but it's
but
gonna reduce the amount of deaths for sure.
no, it's not, because here's what's going to happen. All right, yeah, your what if statement, your hypothetical is if everything goes to plan. But that's not what's going to happen if you put guns in the hands of everybody and then don't also require that all
Well,
of those people are trained to use them in that situation.
well, I didn't say everybody, but it's at their
Everybody but wants
discretion.
one,
Yeah,
right?
anyone who wants
Um,
to it should be allowed to,
right.
because anyone who's going to is going to be responsible.
So then instead of having, maybe there's a guard in the school or whatever, and you've got one or two people shooting in the school and a guard who's going after those people. No, then you have 30 people pulling guns and shooting everywhere, because that's what would happen, right?
That's not realistic, though. I feel like
I think that's much more realistic.
I don't think it's realistic because you're assuming that we're just going to go around shooting
No, I
random
don't think that
people.
every person's going to do that. I think every person would do their best if they I guess every person that felt like they wanted to stop that person would do their best to do it. But the fact of the matter is, they're not trained to do that. So what's going to happen? There's going to be a lot of collateral damage from that, whether intentional or unintentional.
I,
It's
I don't think it's going to any collateral damage. I don't think is going to be as high as you think. Let's say even if there was a person that got in the crossfire and was killed because of it, it's still going to reduce the amount of deaths because the intention of that shooter is going to be he's going to be able to shoot even more people. That person might have died anyways.
well,
Who knows? The
yeah.
shooter might have got to them, but I mean, it's unfortunate
Again,
that this happens, but it's not going to be like a thing where we're going to not
you're
do that because we think that someone might be innocently
you're
killed by trying to stop the person. It's still going to reduce the amount of deaths.
you're compounding a number of variables, though, all in your favor. Like, and that's just not that it's just not practical to say that that's the way that would go.
I,
That's
I would
not
I
what we
would see it I would see it as what you would say common sense.
Yeah.
It's the way things in reality would go. It's not going to go perfect by any means, any time,
It's
but
not the way
it's
it goes now with less guns. So I don't understand.
with what
In
guns?
cases where we have publicly, not in schools, because that's a no gun area. In places publicly, though, where we have these good guys trying to stop bad guys, there are a number of times that it just puts people in more danger, and it's not it's that it does it. So for you to draw that conclusion, it would have to be the opposite of that, and
I
it's
don't see how that puts people in more danger, but
because you
uh,
have another person firing a gun.
yeah, and it's always going towards the bad guy, isn't it?
Yeah, always in your in your story, but that's not the what we see. We see people that fire guns at targets and miss all the time. Um, all the time. Even with the police, they miss more than they hit.
Oh yeah,
So where are those bullets going? And
and
adding more guns to that situation in a school is more bullets. So to say that it would be so much lower and to save lives and all this, there you have no basis to make that claim.
and there are people who are more trained than the police.
Sure.
The police don't have that high of training, to be honest.
No,
People
no,
think that they're experts with firearms, and they're not.
no. I agree. They had most cops have about 6 weeks of training period, and
Yeah,
maybe a
and
few hours a year.
yeah, and then they don't get a lot of practice on top of it.
Yeah.
I think there are people who get more practice with firearms who are just gunners in general, because it's
And those are, whenever there was this big thing going on about defund the police and all that, uh, much of that argument wasn't defund the police. It was in its current form. Let's not give funds to them if they're not going to be trained to do the job that they're there.
sure, and I do think that the police should have more training with firearms. I mean, I'm not going to argue that. I think it should be a requirement they do training and exercises and or practicing at the range more than they do.
I,
I
I mean, there are people who here's the thing though, the police don't want it, and it's a bad idea to have a bunch of people who think because they own a gun they can be a vigilante out there and take care of things, and that's what you get with that kind of thing. Whenever you start saying everybody who wants a gun can have a gun, if you want a gun, we're not going to do anything to limit that in any way. That's what you get is people who not only think that it's okay for them to own a gun, but they need a gun because they're going to save lives. And without that training and stuff that comes with that, the fact of the matter is they may save a life, but odds are they're going to miss.
Not necessarily. It depends on how close it is too, but
I
um,
remember learning how to shoot pistols and stuff.
yeah, it's not
Yeah,
easy, is it?
it's not the same
No,
as with a rifle.
and I've gone through some training, some of it professional,
Sure.
um, and it can be an eye opener how much training should you could have. But I think that if someone wants to go out and and carry concealed, I think that they should go get their own training. And there's tons of people out there in the range or someone you can find or know that's willing to train you for free because they have that training, and that you can get that training without having to go to a class necessarily. I mean, I think you could have the classes available for people who want that training, and have that pay for
I
that
mean, it's
class.
better than nothing,
Yeah,
maybe.
and I think that I don't think it should be regulated in something that we should require. But I think it.
You're entitled to your
Yeah,
position.
sure.
I mean, the and that's really the thing. And we'll kind of send this home here because it'll take a few minutes to get to the end. But that's kind of the thing that we're discussing here is that you are you have a position on this and I have a position on it. And my position isn't necessarily the opposite of yours. It's a compromise somewhere between the two.
Yeah,
And
I think it's like I said before. I think it's we disagree on what should happen, not why.
how to handle it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think any reasonable person thinks that a shooting is a good thing. We all and there's
No,
been
they
a
think it's an acceptable thing, though.
no, they don't. They don't.
It's been said.
Yeah, no, because they say that they don't think any of it should happen, but we don't think that uh, restricting the rights of people who are responsible gun owners now is going to change that.
So there isn't a really popular right winger out there saying that in order to preserve Second Amendment rights, we need a certain amount of gun violence every year.
I don't
Because
think that we. I don't think that we. I mean, I'm not going to argue that
I mean,
someone
he's
said
not
that.
out there saying it now, but it was
Yeah,
said. Uh,
I'm going to say that it's not something we think should happen just because we want to own a gun.
well,
Because
I don't.
I think people like me are sitting there going, "Why am
My
I
position
being
doesn't preclude you from that.
no? Yeah, so I mean, so why am I being restricted because of someone else's stupid action?"
Yeah.
That's how we view it.
Because most people are stupid, like George Carlin told us.
Well, I mean, not all everyone's stupid, but people
Not
make
everyone
dumb.
is stupid, but
No,
most people.
people make dumb decisions, and they're
Yes.
not right in the head.
But let's be clear what we're saying by stupid here. I'm not saying that everything that person does is stupid,
No,
but uneducated maybe would uneducated in a lot of areas. And in this particular thing, uneducated equals people dying, which is bad.
in
Uh,
certain aspects, it can be. Yeah, and I think that anyone who does own a gun should get that education themselves.
yeah.
Some people don't, and
We talked about the negligence thing earlier.
yeah, and it's
That
just
negligence far often
yeah,
occurs with people who are untrained and
yeah,
un.
and think of it as like any other power tool, such as a chop saw or anything else.
Yeah.
If you don't respect that piece of equipment, you're gonna get hurt or hurt someone else.
And you know what they did? OSHA came in and said, "You know what? We're going to make some laws here about this. Like, where
Yeah.
you have to."
Well, no, so I can go buy a chop saw from the store and without any regulation. OSHA's not involved.
Right, right. But you can't just give one to anyone to operate in on a daily basis, though, right? The you can go buy one for yourself and use it at home, and it is required to have certain warnings and certain safety features
Sure.
and any number of things um, to prevent more death and injury.
And
And
guns have that too. We have
what
safeties. We have safeties on guns. We have, and it
you have a
is
thing called a safety on a gun, but it's
yes.
not you. Your position is that any regulation is infringement. So anything,
Uh,
any regulation that could make a gun safer is bad.
no, I'm saying that any getting someone trained or regulating doesn't make the gun safer.
No, no, it makes the person safer that's firing the gun.
Yes, but I that's where I think that it's the difference where we disagree is that I think that it should be on the onus of that person to do and get that training that they need. I don't think it should be regulated by the government. So I think if someone
But
yeah, but I think if someone, someone does have an accident because they were negligent or whatever, then they're going to be punished for that.
but
They're going to go to jail. They're going to be punished however, fined, I don't know, whatever, depends on whatever happened.
you want to put it on that person, but the truth of it is that a whole bunch of people don't don't go do that. Um,
Not everyone does, no.
right.
But I think more people do it than you think because they have friends who know and can teach
I'll say
them.
most people do it,
Yeah,
even though I don't think that's correct. Because like in a state like Kentucky, we grow up with guns here. Hell, they give you one when you're born. The uh, I don't know. Uh, I would say close to 80-90% of the people who I know with guns haven't had any sort of formal education or training on the use of those guns
sure, but I mean,
because they grew up with them.
it doesn't have to be formal. It can be from your dad or a friend. I mean, that's not formal training, but it's still training that they got. And
Well, if you're putting it on those people to go do it, and most people aren't, um, that you're not. You can put it on those people all you want. It's not effective. Like there are people who own guns responsibly and carry on just like that. And as for the AR-15s, I would be more in line with like a just like for particular kinds of guns, you're educated on those. Like
yeah,
uh, like you have pistols, so you have a pistol for certification. You have whatever you may have, like and something like that. I'm not saying that's what we should necessarily do, uh, but I think that would go a long way to that to making the argument that you're making, it would make it a hell of a lot stronger argument if it was required than if it isn't. Again, these things help even for the responsible gun owner. Things like these help them more. Um, and the situation of that you the argument that you made, well, some people can't afford it and this and that. By making it something that's required, uh, you could even, I mean, if it's necessary to come up with programs that pay to make sure that people that have guns um, are learning to use them properly,
I
that would be a worthy investment.
I
Even
would be all for the government providing a free class.
we'll see, we're getting somewhere,
I'm all for that,
but
but I'm not
not
requiring.
requiring that you take
Yeah,
that.
that's the difference.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think it could be I think it could be something that could be provided. Maybe even a
we
cheap class, give them $5. I don't know. I mean, it's education is something that's direly needed for stuff like this because not enough people have the proper education behind all this,
yeah.
and people who don't have guns or don't understand them and are just given the pull on heartstrings statistics are the ones out there screaming their lungs out that they should be all be banned and stuff
Sure.
because they don't understand the community behind guns.
No, I mean, I think there's probably people that make hasty calls
Hmm.
on both sides of that, and we can agree on that. Um, all right, so I didn't really leave a lot of time for any really more conversation because Dave's going to start up his stuff here in about 12 minutes, and I'm going to be sending everybody over there. So,
That's fine. I still got some time, but
uh, but just to just to give you kind of a conclusion of my thoughts based on this, and then you can respond to it or give your own or whatever. Um, I think that uh, I think that from where I'm sitting, there's an overwhelming amount of evidence that shows that less regulation of guns would be more harm, not less.
okay.
And I don't. I know that there are arguments for that, and I know that there are specifics. But I think whenever we get into those overall statistics, the ones that bother me most, since we're talking about just my how I feel about it and how versus how you feel about it. Um, I think that um, what I don't really care how they go about it as long as we change those numbers because and if someone wants to argue that it's something else that's causing those numbers, then fine, propose some way to fix it because so far what we've seen is the number of gun deaths goes up, even if the number of individual acts of violence with one single gun goes down. The deaths are going up because we're having school shootings every day
Yeah,
almost. So
and sure.
whatever fixes that,
Yeah,
I'm behind.
yeah.
Uh,
I think that that is something that needs to be fixed. I don't think anyone would argue that. Um,
our opinion on how to fix that is it differs,
yeah,
and that's fine. I think that obviously, I think because I argued the position that that more legislation is needed for guns,
yeah,
and possibly even a limit on who owns particular types of guns. I think it's necessary. I think when we look at the world as a whole, the United States has less of that and more of the problem, and more guns and more of the problem. So there are obviously different things you can adjust, not just all one thing. I want to make it super clear. I'm not for taking anybody's guns or anything. In fact, I would say if they're going to make laws to not make them make guns retroactively illegal, I think that that's a bad idea. That it's just
agreed.
going to cause more locking more people up that didn't do anything. So that's my position on it. I know you disagree, but go ahead.
Sure. I think that my position is that uh, regulations that they propose only do more restriction on legal gun owners than they do stopping crime. And I think that that's something that needs to change. We need to stop and go, what is this really fixing? Why do we think it's fixing it? And go, what should we do differently? And I honestly feel that just taking off restrictions from reasonable legal gun owners and letting them go out, carry, and well, that way we'd have more people who are willing to do so, because then they're free to do so without having to go through a permit process and all that. And I think more people would do it. I think the people who don't want to do it or don't feel comfortable doing it aren't going to do it. Um, and I think that, and I would bet anyone money that that would reduce crime quite a bit. And I think that we need to go the opposite direction, regardless of how people feel about it, because it feels counterintuitive, but it's in reality it's not. And I think that if we just let people do what they need to, and we give people more education, make it free, let put some classes in every a class in every city that they can just go to. They can get education on how to handle a gun, how to use it, when to use it, and why to use it. Will change a lot of things, and will save a lot of more lives than people think they will. That's my position on basically how it is, because if you look at the statistics for self-defense, it's way higher. And I think that if we didn't let people defend themselves, and we try to take away all their guns or restrict it to the point where we can't let them use it, then violent crime is going to go way up. And
Yeah.
I would bet anyone money that that's what would happen. And I don't think either of those situations are going to happen, but so I can't prove anything on that. So,
Yeah.
but that's how I feel about it. I think that we just need to have more people willing to go out, carry, and let them do it. I
Okay.
mean, yeah,
Okay.
people.
I'm not going to push back because
Yeah,
that was the end. We're just going to keep going in
sure.
circles if I do that.
Do you have any super chats or anything we need to go over?
No
Or
super chats. I did see just hear Deviant Outcasts said this, which I thought was interesting.
okay,
You can have gun asylum period where you can leave your gun to the proper authorities after a ban takes place. Um, I'm, you know, I'm open to that. I wasn't necessarily suggesting what things should happen, but there
sure.
are a number of statistics that I think support the that guns becoming more available
Yeah,
um,
and
causes more problems.
they've had gun buyback programs and stuff that
Sure.
have been shown not really work or do anything. But but I mean, if you think about there to be a gun ban and to give someone an asylum to go turn in their guns or a specific gun, most people are not going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that um, maybe I don't know. Maybe there's definitely more to talk about here.
Sure,
We got into
but
a very
yeah,
little
I
bit
mean,
of it.
basically, what my point was last there was that that's my thought on the solution
Yeah.
to a lot of this. And I
Yeah.
think, I mean, there can be, little bits here and there that we need to tweak maybe, but I think that
Yeah.
it would help a lot.
See, I disagree that that's even a valid solution. I don't agree that I don't agree that there's really anything that supports that your solution would have the effect that you
Well,
claim that it would.
there's obviously no statistics out there that say that,
Well,
but
there's also
but
no reason to say it.
but
Uh,
I think it's just, in my opinion, what they would say common sense, because
right, right.
it makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, and it really makes sense that it would reduce it if we did things in. But everything has to fall in place. We can't just do one thing and expect it to work. We have to let people do it, and so on and so forth. So we have to let it all happen at once, but it's, again, not going to happen. Not in today's world.
Yeah, I think the risk reward ratios really far off on that is my feeling. The in, in doing that, if it has the opposite effect, which it seems to have, then you've caused tons of death for something that didn't seem to be true anyway. Um,
Yeah,
and I know it seems to be true to you. I'm just saying, when I say doesn't seem to be true, I mean it isn't evidently true.
sure, sure,
Um,
sure.
uh, but yeah, whatever. Um, so anyway, couple minutes left, guys. Number one, thanks, Joe, for coming and talking. I know that this isn't the most a friendly place to have this kind of conversation.
That's fine. I'm happy to do it. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I try to behave myself as long as I feel like you're being honest. It's when people are dishonest with me that I kind of become a dick about it.
No,
But
yeah,
I
and
mean,
it's
so
being blatantly dishonest is
yeah,
not a good thing.
uh, yeah. So, but excuse me.
I guess I was want to be on here to share my thought process, kind of.
uh, but yeah. So maybe in the future we can come back and revisit this issue or another one. I'm
Yeah,
sure, being a Republican, I'll probably say some things that seem pretty crazy, um, at least
sure.
occasionally. Uh, the But and just as what I'm trying to show you here is that you're welcome to come and talk about these things. I'll address you probably um, in a nicer way than I may someone who's in my own group that I disagreed with,
Sure.
just for the sake of being able to have a conversation, um, and get a little bit of idea of what the thinking process is there, and why you hold those opinions, and why I don't. So we don't have to hate each other to disagree
No, I don't. I
over
don't.
this.
I don't hate anyone who disagrees with me. It's just that the people who scream and yell, I tend to just shut out because they're not here to have a conversation. They're just there to shout their opinion.
Different methods are effective for reaching different people,
Yes.
um, and
Sure.
so you'll have that. Um, we will be back on again Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern with another political show. Kelly King is going to sit in on that one with us, and we'll talk about a whole another bunch of stuff that probably has to do with Donald Trump.
Sure. Sure.
But
I'm pretty sure most of it I'll disagree with, maybe, or half of it. But yeah.
yeah, that's okay.
So I try to listen to stuff at work a lot. So usually during the weekdays I'm at work listening with my earbuds in my ears. And
Yeah. That's okay. You're you're welcome to speak up and point out anything you disagree with me about. That's
sure.
why I do this.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Occasionally I go to my phone and go, okay, I'm going to put this in the chat real quick, and then go back to work. And
yeah, yeah. Well, we have a lot of people that watch that way, actually. And uh, as for the political show Wednesday, next Saturday will be another debate. Only this will be with the young Earth creationists, who wants to argue about objective morality. And
big eye roll.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I honestly think objective morality is the worst argument that apologists make, and I
One
think
of them at least.
yeah, it's pretty bad, and it's but he promised to make me look stupid, so I said I'd give him the opportunity.
Sure.
So we're
But
gonna
yeah,
do that.
if you guys something ever comes up, you want to have me on again, we could probably schedule something again if you want.
Well, yeah,
Um,
yeah, and if anybody out there wants, to get a hold of you or whatever,
yeah. So
shoot me.
like anyone like Robin or the other guy, I forget his name, who was on when I was super chatting with you or chatting with you guys before. If he wants to have me on his channel or anyone, you can welcome to give them my email to reach out if they want to.
Okay, cool, cool.
As long as you're just giving it to someone who is just wants to have you on their channel, you know them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. If you want to talk to this guy about it, holler at me, and I'll give you his info. If you want to reach out and have the conversation, but yeah, thanks for coming on, and everybody just sit tight, and I'll send you over to Dave's channel at the Captive Desk right now.
Cool. All right, sounds good.
So,
Joe, cool out.